Good morning, everyone. We'll just say a word before we begin here. Our condolences, our prayers go out to the Cheney family. Of course, we've had the loss now of former Vice President Dick Cheney. Scripture is very clear. We give honor where honor is due, and someone who gave their life, loved their country, loved serving their country in so many capacities. As you know, Dick Cheney served as Vice President. He served as a Secretary of Defense. He served as a congressman, of course, from Wyoming, and as the youngest chief of staff to any president in the history of the country. And so the honor is certainly due to him, and our prayers go out to the family. This is now day 35 of the Democrat shutdown, and I'll be honest with you, I don't think any of us expected that it would drag on this long. We didn't believe, we couldn't have imagined. It's now tied for the longest shutdown in U.S. history, and we didn't think we'd have to come in here every single day, day after day after day, and repeat the obvious facts to the American people, and to put on display every day what is happening here. Again, it's a split screen. We've talked about the split screen in the country right now. The American people are wise. Ronald Reagan used to remind us you can trust the American people, and we do. And they can see the facts here. They see that President Trump and the Republican Party are delivering real positive results for the American people, delivering on our promises. We passed the Working Families Tax Cut, which is the largest middle-class tax cut in American history. We signed into law as part of that. No tax on tips, no tax on overtime. Big savings for those on Social Security. We strengthened Medicaid with popular, common-sense reforms that strengthens the program. We've improved health care access in rural communities, and we have reduced premiums. There's a lot more work to be done there. It's the Republicans who are delivering those reforms. We restored American energy dominance. We got the border crisis solved. We are reducing and handling the crime crisis in city by city around America. And we have restored peace through strength. That is on one side of the screen. Over the past 34 days of the shutdown, the Republicans have been the only ones working in good faith to end the shutdown and get everyone paid and get the services flowing again. And we have voted that way 14 times. That's on one side of the screen. On the other is the Democrats. And it's such a stark contrast. Because in the last 10 months, the only thing that party has accomplished for the country is to shut down the federal government and cause this pain. The past 5 weeks have been painfully clear that Democrats are not interested in doing their most basic job. And we explained here yesterday, all of this is motivated by one thing and one thing alone. The Schumer shutdown was never about health care or any other policy that they claim now. They can't even decide amongst themselves what it was about. Some have said it's the Seinfeld shutdown because it's about nothing. But I'll tell you what it is ultimately about, truly. And this is something that can be demonstrated, and everyone here knows it's true. As I summarized yesterday, the Schumer shutdown was never about health care or any other policy. It is about fear. It's about fear. Right now, the Democrats fear political retribution from the far-left activists in their party more than they fear the consequences of keeping the government closed for weeks on end. They fear political retribution from far-left activists more than families going hungry and workers missing paychecks. That is a fact that they are demonstrating day after day and vote after vote. It's gotten so bad for them that even their traditional allies are losing patience now. The head of the Teamsters Union had a blunt message to Democrats a couple of days ago. Quote, "American workers are not bargaining chips. Senators need to stop screwing around and pass the House-passed clean short-term funding bill," unquote. And it's not just the Teamsters, as you know. AFGE, the largest union of federal workers, had the same plea. And so did the National Association of Air Traffic Controllers, the Coalition of Airline Pilots Association, the NetJets Association of Shared Aircraft Pilots, the Allied Pilots Association, Southwest Airline Pilots Association, the New York Steamfitters Union. It goes on and on and on. These organizations have traditionally backed the Democrats for decades. That has been true. They represent tens of thousands of working Americans, all these associations together. And now they're calling on the Democrats to drop their partisan demands and reopen the government. Stop inflicting this pain on the American people because you are afraid of your far-left base. And how did the Democrats respond to all this? They're gaslighting the American people and even their own base. The truth is the Democrats have lost touch with working Americans because they've simply stopped listening and stopped serving them. And every few months, after leaning harder into their woke identity politics, they commission an expensive study to try to figure out why working class voters have completely abandoned them in the Democrat Party. Here's a recent finding. This is a left-leaning research group that surveyed 3,000 working class Americans. This was published in Politico November 2nd. Quote, this is the finding. Working class voters perceive Democrats to be woke, weak, and out of touch, too focused on social issues, and not nearly focused enough on the economic issues that impact everyone every day, unquote. And here's the kicker. They also said working class voters, quote, can't name what Democrats stand for other than being against Donald Trump. Well, good luck with that as a message to the people. Of course, you don't need a months-long study to tell you that Democrats are woke and weak. You simply need to look around. As the Democrats continue to pander to their radical base of affluent progressives, President Trump and Republicans are building a new multi-generational coalition of voters that is grounded in common sense. Since November 2024, Republicans have welcomed record numbers of Hispanic and Latino voters, Black and African American voters, Jewish voters, union workers, young people, all these different segments of the population, and they came in large numbers. People everywhere can see clearly who's fighting and voting here every day and delivering for them. And I'll say this clearly to every hardworking American in any place who's missed a paycheck, anyone who is being made to suffer because the services, the health services you rely upon, or the food and nutrition supplement for your family, anyone who is hurting, you have a home in the Republican Party. You have people here who are elected by their constituents to come and do their job, and they do it. They're voting to support you, to make these programs available, to ensure that the people in need have them. And the Democrats, by stark contrast, are doing the exact opposite. With federal workers entering their 5th week without a full paycheck, Democrats ought to be taking a hard look in the mirror. Will they continue to bend the knee to their radicals who run their party? Or will Democrats finally do something to serve the working Americans they abandoned long ago? As we said here all along, and every day we come in and tell you the same thing, Democrats made the deliberate choice to shut down the government. And only Democrats can put an end to this madness by making the deliberate choice now to reopen the government. Today is a big election day. In these blue states, we certainly hope for a surprise, but I mean, it won't be a big surprise if the front runners, the Democrats, the radicals, win some of these elections. We're watching New York City very closely, as you all know, and so is Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries. And they're terrified the Marxists are taking over their party, and the evidence today may show that that is true. Now, until Democrats decide to do the right thing, we expect working Americans to continue to flee the Democrat Party and find a home with the Republicans, and we welcome them with open arms, and we'll keep fighting for them every day. And one of the people who is fighting every day and doing an extraordinary job in the cabinet of this administration, this historic administration, that has accomplished more in the first 9-10 months of an administration or Congress than arguably any in history. We have our former colleague and our dear friend who's on the side of American workers, and we'll address that today, Labor Secretary Lori Chavez de Reamer. We're happy to have you. All right, thanks again, Mr. Chairman, Madam Secretary. I know you all are busy. We're glad you're here and grateful to have you. Let's take some questions. Front row, front row.
There have been reports of bipartisan talks from senators to reopen the government, to move forward on ACA votes. Are you or other top House GOP members in the loop of these conversations? Are you present in these meetings?
No, not present in the meetings. I know about as much about it as you do. I know there are, we hope, we pray, a handful of moderate and centrist Democrats left among the Democrats in the Senate, where the whole country is counting upon them. I have said here, I do not expect that Chuck Schumer or Hakeem Jeffries will ever vote to reopen the government. I don't think that they're willing to face the wrath of the leftist base. They see what's happening in New York City and in their state of New York, and they're terrified by that. I mean, we've made that very clear, and I think the evidence speaks for itself. So we're going above the heads of the so-called leadership, and we are appealing to the consciences of a handful of people in the Senate who want to do the right thing and just stop the pain for the American people. And we pray that today is that day. Maybe tying for the longest shutdown in history is something that they can claim as some sort of success. But it's sickening. It's sickening to see a political game being played. We're not playing a game here. We never were. Back on September 19th, to remind you all again, we passed a clean, nonpartisan CR. It's 24 pages in length, had not a single Republican priority on it. Why? Because we did it in good faith, because we didn't want this eventuality to occur. We knew it would be too painful for the people, and that's why we've always done the right thing, as everyone has said over and over. Now they won't, and we all know why. Yes, sir. No. If the Senate passes something, of course, we'll come back. We're running out of clock, obviously. We put 7 weeks on the clock. That was remember, the bipartisan arrangement that was made between Democrats and Republicans in the House and the Senate, in consultation with the Senate, bipartisan bicameral agreement that they needed 7 more weeks on the clock. Because once we got to the end of the fiscal year, September 30th, there would be that much more time needed, they estimated, to finish the government funding appropriations process. The Democrats have played games, and we've lost so many of those days now. So if they extend it, obviously that logically makes sense to us. I am not a fan of extending it to December because, let's be frank, a lot of people around here have PTSD about Christmas omnibus spending bills. We don't want to do that. It gets too close, and we don't want to have that risk. We're not doing that. We're not doing that. But too many people have concern. I think putting it into January makes sense, but we've got to obviously build consensus around that. There's some discussion about it. We'll see where it lands. I'm not sure. Scott, real quick. Yeah, Scott.
You referenced the passing of Cheney earlier, who was arguably the most powerful vice president in our lifetimes. Obviously, he had a complicated relationship with President Trump in his later years, as his entire family. But he served, I think, 3, maybe 4 presidents in the White House and in some of the top roles. Do you have any personal reflections, or did you have any interactions with Cheney as you were sort of coming up in Republican politics in Louisiana? And do you think, are there any plans for him to lie in the state here at the Capitol where he served?
Well, this all, just was announced this morning, so there's not been any discussion about that yet. My interaction with him personally was limited when I was a freshman in Congress, and the 115th Congress came here in January 2017. One of my classmates was Liz Cheney, and we were in the same class. And I think I met her father for the first time with her personally. And of course, I was honored to meet him. At the time, everybody was aligned on the same page on everything. And I, admired what he had done in Republican politics to that point. And I meant what I said when I came up here and began this morning, that even when we have political differences with somebody later in life, you have to honor the sacrifices and the service they gave to their country. We certainly do that for the former vice president, and our prayers go out to the whole family. So, yeah.
You talk about the split screen between the Democrats are doing and what the Republicans are doing. What about the split screen about the fact that the Trump administration is administering only part of the SNAP program while President Trump is having a gathering party at Mar-a-Lago?
I reject the premise of the question. Let me talk about SNAP. Okay. By the way, the president had an annual Halloween theme party every year at Mar-a-Lago. That's what he went back to as obligatory tradition. And I just discount what you're trying to do there. The SNAP benefit is a very important question. The White House has bent over backwards, as we've recounted here every morning, to make sure that Americans' pain is mitigated as much as possible, reduced as much as possible. So we got the troops paid. They made creative solutions for that. The WIC funding for women, infants, and children. And SNAP came to a legal crossroads because the legal analysis said that you could not use the contingency fund if the underlying fund was not flowing. I've explained that into detail here multiple times. 2 courts disagreed. So what did the president do? In good faith, showing again that he's willing to bend over backwards to help the American people when Democrats are not, he went to the court and said, fine, show me how to do it, because we don't see the path. And so the courts have ordered that. They filed a brief yesterday, or some response yesterday in the court, that they'll give as much as is there. Remember, the contingency fund only has roughly $5 billion, and it costs roughly $9 billion for a month of SNAP benefits. So I think the arrangement is they're going to give half, at least half, to everyone. But here's the problem: it's very complex, is that it's administered through the states, and you have to recalculate all the allocations and how the checks go out. It's not, you can't just flip a switch and do that. It's a lot of work that goes into it. So I can tell you, But the president is dialed in on this. The president is trying to protect and cover the American people, as he always does. The president is trying to get the government open again. And the Republicans have voted 14 times to do it, and the Democrats have voted 14 times not to do it, to keep the government closed. That's the story. And I don't know why there's any confusion about this at all. They're going to do it again today. My prediction is the Democrats are going to vote for the 15th time to shut their government down, and they're going to look down their noses at the people who are struggling, who are suffering, can't put food on the table, who can't pay their bills because they're playing games over here. It is absolutely unforgivable in my view. And I wish more of you would give them a tougher time. Yes, last one.
Are you going to be listening to us?
A question for the Secretary, if I may. I'm just curious if you can kind of tell us what we know about how the shutdown has impacted the labor market. Obviously, with Bureau of Labor Statistics folks being furloughed, I'm curious what we do know so far about how this has impacted the job market, and if we will really be able to get a full picture, or if we will it take the shutdown ending for us to be able to get a full picture?
Yeah, thank you for the question on the Labor Department and specifically BLS, the labor statistics, how important those data points are in order for the markets, in order for employers to understand what the workforce is needed. We are not able to release a lot of those reports because we have those furloughed employees. So once the government is open, we will get right back to work in releasing that. We released one report earlier this month because that was required by law. And the CPI, in order to talk about Social Security checks for 2026, that had to be calculated. So we brought some workers back for that, but we will not be able to release the other data points. As far as the Department of Labor goes, as was mentioned, when we're talking about the SNAP program, one of the other programs that we're definitely concerned about, and we've sent letters out to all 50 states, is unemployment insurance. As delivered by those states, that will be the next thing that we have to be concerned about. If people stop receiving their unemployment insurance, will be another detrimental fact to the American workforce. So that is what we're focused on now. We need this government open. We need to get back to work for the American people. The American workers deserve to know where their next paycheck is coming from, and the American economy deserves the American workers there. So yes, this is impacting the labor force. I would imagine we're going to see more and more things every single day that this government is shut down. It is going to affect the American economy. And so we're working hard at the Labor Department to make sure that we can keep everything running that we can. But right now at this point, we're working off the back heels of us, and we have to do everything we can. So it's important to get as many statistics out as we can, but we haven't been able to do so. So we're working hard for the American people. We need this government open to do so and to continue.
Thank you.
Real quick, do you support ICE raids in districts like Speaker Johnson's district and the Republicans up here on stage in the agriculture and hospitality sectors?
Well, one of the things we focus on is all of the programs in order to support the American people. Certainly, the president has been clear. We secured that border. We're going to continue to work on behalf of this administration to focus on the American people, American first policies, and the American workforce. Thank you.
Thank you.
What about LSU?
Thank you.